Hello, Richard Knudsen here again, and welcome back to another edition of the Dynamics CRM Trick Bag. In this demonstration, I want to talk to you about sharing records in Dynamics CRM. It's an important thing to know about. It can be pretty useful, but it's apparently pretty confusing. I get asked about this a lot, and it does take a while to figure out how to do this in kind of an efficient way. Now, the reason that you want to be able to share a record is to override the built-in or the default security model that you have set up, which is going to prevent people from seeing records, information that they shouldn't have access to. And one of the reasons that you might want to override the security model on occasion is to give somebody access to maybe records on a temporary basis. A good example might be if I'm going out of town for a couple weeks on vacation and I want somebody who normally can't see my accounts and contacts and opportunities to look after them while I'm gone. And what I can do to illustrate that is I've got a few browser windows open here. I'm logged in here as Richard Knudsen, who's a system administrator user, so I can see all of these accounts and all these contacts. But if I open up a browser window as another user, so Megan Sherman, doesn't see any contacts or any accounts, so these are users in security roles that normally don't have access to those records. And here we are as Mark Harrington, same thing. Doesn't see contacts or accounts. So what I can do as the administrator is let's select some accounts, keep the number small, just select a couple, and with those records selected on the grid, if I've got permissions to share, which I do as the system administrator, I can go to sharing and simply select the user that I want to share those records with. Well, let's go ahead and choose Megan. And there she is. So I'll share out read, write, and delete privileges to those records. And as soon as I go refresh my browser as Megan and navigate to sales, all of a sudden I see the two records that were shared out with me. So I see a bike store and active cycling. Now, one thing that's interesting to note about sharing is that sharing cascades down to what are known as child records. So if I open up a bike store as Megan, since this account record has been shared with her and this account has related contacts, I can see the contacts as well. You can see that maybe more graphically by simply navigating to contacts. So whereas before Megan couldn't see any accounts or any contacts, now she'll see those. And the way CRM is set up out of the box is that anything else that's a child record of these two account records that have been shared, Megan would see those too and be able to have the same type of privileges, so read, write, and delete. So if these had quotes or orders, which in this case it doesn't look like they do, but all of those records would have been shared down as well. So you can share efficiently if you just keep in mind that sharing an account shares all the child records to that account as well. Now, what happens when I get back from vacation and want to revoke those privileges and let the security model I've got set up take over again? Well, I select a record and I choose sharing. And I can see, if I've got the record selected, that sure enough those records are shared out to Megan. And I could highlight that user and choose remove selected items. Now, that's nice. I won't do that just right now. I'll come back to that in a second. But what happens if I have shared out maybe 50 or 60 records, maybe I don't even know how many that I've shared out, and I want to remove sharing from multiple records? This is a problem because you can't do it. So watch this. I'll select two accounts, go to sharing. Notice I don't see anything here. It says you can only view the access rights for one record at a time. So if I add a user back here and I select Megan's record and think that maybe I can remove those privileges, it doesn't work like that. This is a bit of a problem because what it means is that it's easier to share records out than it is to unshare them. So it can make it a little inefficient. You get a little bit too many records shared out there, and it's all too easy to lose track of what's shared, and it kind of defeats the purpose of the security model in the first place. So one way to get around that is to use the concept of a team. If I go to settings on the administration tab, you'll see an area here called teams, and if I click that, you can see that I've defined a team here. Call this senior sales management. let's see what happens if I open this up and I add a couple of members to it. I'm going to add Megan, and I'll add Mark, so you can see how this works for multiple records and multiple users on a team. So what I've done here is I've added 2 members to a team, and now what I can do is I can go to my accounts. Let's select all accounts this time, and instead of sharing out to a user, let's share these accounts out to a team. I can select team in the sharing lookup dialog here, and I'll choose the senior sales management team, which, remember, both of those people are on. I'll give read, write, and delete privileges to that team. And it takes a second to do this, and the reason that this is a relatively slow operation is because what sharing does, remember, is it shares out everything that's a child record of the account record that I'm selecting. So, okay, so now I've shared out all these active accounts, and if I open up Megan's browser, go to sales, now Megan has read, write, and delete privileges to all 132 active accounts in the AdventureWorks Corporation. So as I page through here, I'll see all these accounts and all the contacts in turn that are owned by all those accounts, and anything else that are also child records of those accounts, as I've pointed out. And since Mark was on that senior sales leadership team, as soon as I refresh his browser, sure enough, he's got all the accounts and all the contacts as well. Now, what does the team approach get us that the direct sharing to user does not? Well, here what we'll do is I'll go back as a system administrator, select all my accounts, and once again, if I go to sharing here with all those accounts, since multiple records are selected, I can't unshare them. But so you can see that there, but I can do this. The nice thing about Teams is that, as you saw, adding users to a team allows me to give them the privileges that have been assigned to that team. So sharing a record with a team implicitly shares it with all the members of the team, and similarly, removing users from a team removes all of those shared records. So the next time Megan or Mark come in and refresh the browser, notice that the only thing Megan has now is the original 2 records that were shared with her directly, and Mark comes in, and now everything has been unshared with Mark, because the only way he had those records shared to him in the first place was through the team. So your big takeaway from this should be that if you're going to share records, it's a useful thing to be able to do, but try to share only with teams. That way you can add and remove people from teams, and then you can much more easily keep track of which records are shared, rather than sharing directly to individuals. So Richard Knudsen here, signing off, and I hope you found this useful.